Hello, hello, hello. This is Kevin Epps here from Digital Brilliance Hour. As you can see, this is what I look like in case you didn't know. I'm a black man who's been an engineer for over 20 years. And the reason why I'm doing this, I'm doing something a little different today, kind of a little story time. Just to give you just my history and what it's like to be a black engineer. This channel is for everybody. But at the same time, I do recognize the fact that especially people of color in particular are underrepresented in the IT space. So obviously I felt like this for the whole 20 years I've worked. But the reason behind this whole thing is because number one, I've just been kind of just doing research to really see like what the numbers are really looking like, to see what the perception is out there, just not from the employer's point of view. They say they're taking great strides to bringing diversity into these companies and all that. Okay, we'll see. But in order to take advantage, I feel like we have to be honest with ourselves to ensure that we do it the right way. So that prompted me to start looking up really like how many like black engineering channels are out there on YouTube. And so as I was looking around, I didn't see a lot, and not even just tech stuff, but engineering, because in my eyes, there's a difference, because there's a lot of like review channels of different tech and different tools out there that we use for technology for our convenience and things of that nature. But at the same time, what about showing that we are able to also build those things that we review and consume? So that was one of my things that I was trying to look up. There wasn't a lot of us, and in that research I came across is one brother, and let me get his name really quick. I don't want to mess it up. So Dummy Codes YouTube. I think he did a fantastic video on why there are no black engineers. I think he broke it down really well, and that just got me to thinking about breaking down my story, because I'm a black engineer. I've been in this game for almost 20 years, like 19 plus. So I'm almost reaching the 20-year mark. So I've been doing this for a very long time. I never consider myself to be a full expert because technology is always expanding, and I'm always learning. I never consider myself to be all knowing. So that's number one. I might give suggestions, I may give examples, but that's based on my experience. But at the same time, as long as you have the fundamentals to understand how to proceed, that's how you can grow. But anyway, it's neither here nor there, right? I'll get into that. So while I'm doing this though, I'm gonna go ahead and play some the Messenger. I really like the Messenger. So I'm gonna play some of that while I actually go over this. So go ahead and minimize this here and go ahead and get playing. So before I get started, I want to start on my background, because I feel like there is not one type of black person. I think we get this idea that there's just this one black person, this one type of black person, and we all fall under that category. And if you don't fall under that category, then you're not black. But that could be further from the truth. The black culture is so expansive that we have to take in mind all of us having different interests, all of us seeing the world in different ways. So there's many different facets of what it means to be black. Being black, there should be a set foundation that we all build from. Now, I do agree that. I feel like we all need to have that. I don't think we have that, but I do agree that we need to have something like that. But outside of that, interests and personalities and things of that nature were very different. So my background. So I grew up, in a single parent home. My mom, obviously, I had a slight relationship with my dad. Back in those days though, it was different, because they were married when I was born. At the same time, he had a whole other family, then they divorced. He was, I think looking back, and again, everything that he did when he back then, I don't hold a grudge against him now, because I know now he was so young. Even talking to him now, he reminds me of my older brother, and my older brother is very, he can be, anyway, not all the time, but he can be, timid, quiet, not like doesn't really like to show emotion or express himself. And so that's exactly how my dad is. So when growing up, I can understand why he made the decisions that he made. Plus he was young, my mom was young, everybody was young, between 17, 21. That's young in my opinion, unless you like 30, 40. So I know people have kids. I don't want to get too far off the point, but so single parent, we definitely stayed in the hood. When I say hood, I mean projects. There was a point where there was drugs, but it wasn't violent yet. There was still a notion of family and neighborhood, in those days. So this was between 80 and, let's say, 86, 80 and 89, between 80 and 89, I guess. You could see things changing. Drugs was there, but it wasn't rampant until about 88, 89. Then you start seeing the guns, and before you might have saw knives, you might have saw one or two people with guns, but it wasn't, it wasn't rampant. But then, that's everything changed, and then we moved to a low income housing project. So, I was always low income. I was always getting those hand-me-downs. I was a, Boys and Girls Club participant. I was like most of those clubs. We had a lot more of those types of clubs when I came up. So I had access to a lot more mentors. I had access to more men, even though my dad wasn't fully in my life, but I still had access to older men who knew how to be men. So I'm extremely thankful for that. So I come up from all that. So I have a very rooted history in just the typical black experience in this country. So I come up from that. I've seen quite a bit. I've seen death. I saw death at a very early age, all that stuff, right? But at the same time, in the midst of that, I was still into science. I was still into earth science. I was still into technology. I wanted to be a game developer, all that stuff in the midst of that, because I guess I knew what I wanted to do. So that's just what it was. And so I came up, and the reason why I have to explain this part about how I come up speaks to how I am today, right? So I come up, was in the hood, I think that was around the time when they started doing the busing of the kids to the white schools. And, so we had a perfectly good black school in our neighborhood, but they would bus us to the white schools to expose us to better education, they would say. This was in Greenville, South Carolina. So I went to Malden Elementary, like all the different white schools I went to, I was bussed out to. And I was one of those students, I was a black boy, coming from the hood, poor, all of that, lights getting cut off. I mean, all them stories that you hear, right? But I outperformed the other students there. But that wasn't taken very well, and I also didn't express myself well during those times, because I would be the kid who needed more to do, because they would have work in class. I would I finished the work extremely fast because I had already done it before. My mom was real heavy on, us learning in the home and just making sure that we weren't behind. She was real strict on that. And I was intuitive and inquisitive anyway, so you know, I liked it. So in school, I would get in trouble because I would get bored easily and just want to go do something else. And you know, it was obvious that I was smarter than the rest of the kids. Like when I say obvious, it was obvious that I was the smartest kid in the class. Was mostly white kids, right? So when the teacher called my mom about it, you know, and the teacher would be so mean to me, you know, she would just try to act like I was just the most disruptive kid, and I was just going to grow up to be a tyrant. And, like she was trying her best to diminish this black boy who was outperforming these other kids. It was obvious that's what she was doing, you know, but she would grab my arm and like she'd do all this stuff, take out all her frustrations on this little black boy who's too smart for her class, you know. And I was in first grade, and how I feel she could have handled this, I don't even want to go down that road. So the story is, she called my parents, she called my mom, and went to the school. You know, her issue was how I wouldn't sit down and I wouldn't be still because I didn't have anything to do. He finished his work too fast. You know, I'm like, okay. So my mom suggested that she would, you know, send workbooks with me. You know, she'd bring, have me go to school with some extra workbooks. So that I would have extra workbooks. So when I did finish the work faster, I would have, you know, other work to do that would keep me stable and keep me set, and focused. So we did that. Now there was an option to bump me up to like second or third grade, you know, because I was well ahead, right? But they weren't going to do that to the little black boy coming from the hood that's supposed to be bused to this white school to get better education. So we ain't gonna do that, you know. So so you know, that was the plan. So that ended up working out or whatever, but that was pretty much how it was for me in those schools. And I didn't go to a different type of school till my last 2 years of high school, and that was the happiest I ever was at school, outside of going to college, because I went to a HBCU. But when I was going to those going to the white schools, I really hated it. And again, and it wasn't because I was trying to fit in or anything like that. It just wasn't me. I just knew it wasn't me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I got along with people. But I felt like I couldn't truly be myself the way I wanted to be myself. And I'm saying this because this is gonna lead to later. So I couldn't fully be myself the way I wanted to be myself, because, you know, when you have white female teachers, and if a black boy especially does anything that seems remotely dangerous, we're gonna be seen differently. So I had to be slightly different in how I approach things. It wasn't all white. Let me also say, it wasn't all white teachers. It wasn't all white female teachers. Most, but not all, because there were teachers there who were really good, and I definitely still love them to this day. But that is a preface to where I am now. So I go to college after going to a multi-international high school. The last 2 years of high school. Majority black, but we had Indian, we had Asian, we had white. I mean, it was so many different cultures in the school, but it was majority black. So I was able to see myself a lot, and my confidence grew so much just being able to see black excellence and see myself in a different way, and see myself pushing me to be better, you know. So, you know, I had that, went to a HBCU, more of the same, continued to grow. So I had the experience of both being around multiple cultures, being around white folk a lot, and being around my own. So I was well versed in being around multiple cultures from the time I was young. But I also had that foundation of sticking to who I am as a person, right? So get into the workforce, right back to like it was being bused to the schools. Again, I didn't have problems with people, so I was the only one up to year 17, right? In those spaces, again, I don't think people were trying, like I don't think people were trying to be some kind of way towards me, but at the same time, it was obvious they didn't fully understand. You know, most white folk and just other cultures in general, white, Indian, Asian, like unless they grew up around a certain, you know, demographic, unless they get it, they're not gonna fully get how to truly communicate with you. They're not gonna realize all the different undertones that needs to be taken into account. You know, when I was the only one, I've always been myself, but at the same time, I didn't feel like I could truly be myself. Like, you know, there's a bit of code switching every now and then. I mean, I don't code switch a lot, but I know most of my black counterparts who are in this career, you know, a lot of them do. A lot of them will code switch to, you know, kind of hide themselves to ensure they're not too abrasive or seen as abrasive, or too emotional. You know, a lot of the times, at least from my experiences, I've been around several of my own who, like, where I've been able to communicate, not work with them, but, you know, I've been able to reach out to people and find other friends who, you know, we're sprinkled about, and we try to at least communicate and have someone else who understands what it's like to be the only one on the team. And so the stories are very similar because, number one, people feel like they have to code switch, meaning they have to behave a certain way that's very similar to how the white demographic behaves, because white demographic, Indian, Asian, they don't necessarily know your culture. We're kind of forced to know everyone else's culture out there. We're like, we can't get around it. You know, we have no choice but to learn their culture. But when it comes to ours, the culture that's spread isn't the full culture. You know, it's like 1% of our culture. So they're basing their understanding of how to deal with me on that 1% of understanding. So they don't even know how to approach me. You know, I probably make them comfortable because I'm a very patient person, unless you do something that deserves reprimand. But for the most part, because I'm a big guy, actually. You know, I'm a 6'1". I've always had some size on me, so no one ever really tried me like that. You know, some people try to, you know, use words to try to throw some shade here and there to try to think they went over my head with something, but I was right there to attack back verbally, to show them that they didn't know as much as they thought they did. So, you know, all that stuff, I mean, I know how to defend myself in those regards. So that I was able to get around that. But being the only one, there's a lot of code switching. You can't fully make, especially coming out, you can't go in thinking that everybody's your friend. And what I mean by this is you can't go in trying to please everybody. You have to go in wanting to be the best you can be, because there's a huge difference. You know, I've heard stories of, you know, people who look like me going in and, you know, they just saying yes to everything everybody does because they don't want to, you know, they don't want to be seen as if they don't know something, or they don't want to be seen in a certain way when it shouldn't even matter about that kind of stuff. Like, if you don't know, you don't know. You don't have to lie and say you know, only to be proven that you don't know in the end, and then they'll have something on you anyway. So there's no point in even lying to try to kick it. You know, you ain't got to lie to kick it. So it's you have to probably put a little bit more time, because again, you being black in this world in general, you have to put in more time and work to even be seen, to be acknowledged. You have to put in more time and work. You got to, you know, in my spaces, to be seen, you have to do a lot of talking. You have to, not, I mean, even if you don't know what you're talking about, but the fact that you're heard and the fact that you're seen, the fact that you're constantly in people's view, that's what makes you unforgettable, instead of how much you actually know, how much you bring to the table. Like, none of that stuff is what helps you. just to be completely honest. It's more so like how well can you stay in front of people? How well can you ensure that the people who quote unquote matter know what you're doing and know how much you're bringing to the table? That is the only way that people will even see you, especially in large corporations. So putting in that work to, number one, just continue building your fundamentals, because fundamentals, people don't understand, fundamentals are what's going to help you become better and better and better. You can continuously grow if you have a set base of just engineering fundamentals, how to take what you have and create something, you know, how to critically think, how to not fall under pressure when you don't have everything you need, but you have enough to make what's necessary. You know, lead with data versus leading with emotion. You have to be like that as a black person. Everyone else doesn't have to be that way, but you do. You have to be that way, because you will be seen differently. Everybody else has this level of privilege where they don't have to worry about that kind of stuff, but you do. And that's what you have to be wary of, being the only black person. And most black people are aware of that. You know, you can't go in thinking, hey, we're all the same. That's when you're going to get got. That's where you're going to get used up. That's when you're not going to be able to fully accomplish what it is you want to accomplish. You'll accomplish what they want you to accomplish, but not what you want to accomplish. So again, having that foundation of yourself, of your own background, of who you are, is very key when coming into this world. Now, hopefully, you know, we can start, you know, these initiatives to kind of build up the diversity in the IT space. We'll see where that goes. But even in that, we definitely, this is why I do DBH, because one of the main things I want to do is ensure that children of color are able to answer that call. You know, they'll have those fundamentals. They'll have that access to like Agile and Scrum. I mean, it's not even necessarily about particular coding languages. It's, you know, understanding how companies work, understanding the Agile process, understanding the Scrum, understanding how development teams work, understanding how to take a larger project, break it down into smaller chunks so you can get quick wins and ensure that people know that you're actually getting work done, because this is a delivery-based career. So it's based on what you can deliver, not how much you know. So you have to have those fundamentals already instilled in you, and as long as you have that, you can learn anything else. You could, like, I mean, I did a video about going through the documentation for OpenBOR. That is key, because you can watch every single one of my videos and think you got it figured out, and you're gonna always come to a command or a function that I have not covered or that you have not seen. And you have to have a place, you have to have the wherewithal to know, oh, let me see what this means. Once I understand what it means, I know how it's used and how to apply it. That's the mindset that you have to have. You have to have that kind of mindset to be able to process things in a different way than you might be used to. You know, the society is a very convenient society. You know, we got all these cell phones, got all this technology that just does everything for you, which is cool, but you still need to know how to do it manually to fully appreciate the convenience. It's not to be devoted and dependent on the convenience. That's not what you should strive for, because you know that has been the mindset of so long. People have forgotten how to put in the work to actually figure out how things are done. So we can't get rid of that. You can't just say, oh man, there's this class for Python that you can learn in 6 months. Let me learn that in 6 months. Okay, I'm good. I can get a job. No, you need to understand the fundamentals, and then you can learn Python, C++, C, Pascal, Rails, Ruby on Rails, Java, JavaScript. Like you can learn so many, Golang. You can learn like all the languages out there because you understand the fundamentals. Being black, that was my thing, and that was how I was able to stay in this career for so long and be seen as someone who knows what they're talking about, because I stayed on the fundamentals. I never tried to say that I was an expert in anything. People consider me an expert. Like every time I turn around, they say I'm an expert. You know, okay. You know, I know what I'm doing. I do know what I'm doing, but I don't consider myself an expert in knowing everything. I just know how to find it, how to read it, how to understand it, how to apply it, how to deliver it. That's what you have to focus on, because technology is so wide and so vast. You're never going to know it all. You're never going to. So, but anyway, I don't want to get too far off topic. That's what led me to teach DBH, though. Those are the things from a black point of view. You have to, number one, have a foundation. You know, I actually feel slightly sorry for, you know, black students who only know the suburb life. You know, I'm not saying you need to always have to go through something to understand who you are, but at the same time, I think we as black folks sometimes go to the suburbs thinking that, okay, they're going to get the best life has to offer if we're in this space. But children, when you're putting black children in this space, they eventually give up who they really are, especially like when they're like between 3 and like 10 or 11. By that 12th year, they've pretty much given up on who they are, and they've mimicked who they've been around instead of being who they are among people they're around. There's a difference. You don't have to mimic a different culture to be around them. You can be yourself and they can accept you. That's how it's supposed to be. Not you have to adapt to how they are in order for them to be comfortable around you. That's not how it's supposed to be. You need to be yourself. You need to be respectful. You need to ensure that you are being committed to who you are, so that you can see things a little bit different than somebody else would. Another thing, a story that I hear all the time is how, and this is something I go through a lot, went through a lot, where I might see something because, you know, because of privilege. I'll just leave it at that. Because of privilege, sometimes there's a conceited notion on a lot of things. You know, somebody may have a title. You know, they have this certain level of access that leads to a level of pride where they won't see everything that needs to be seen. And I'll see something like, I don't know if, you're going down this way, but I know where this leads, and you may not want to go down this road. But because I might not have the title, or I might not have that same level that they might have, my words aren't taken to heed at all. And then again, 2 months later, everything I said comes to fruition, you know. Then of course I have to adapt to the shitstorm that has come about that I already knew was going to happen in the first place. And then they say, oh yeah, I should have listened, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes they don't even say that. That happens a lot, you know, because again, we're seen as the help. And it's not fully their fault per se. I feel like we have a level of control. Like I feel like if we had more camaraderie, and I know there's definitely more, or it's not cut and dry. And I do not want to say this as if this is just so black and white and it's so simple. That's not what I'm saying. But if we were at a place where we had this level of camaraderie, where we had this set base of rules that we lived upon, like all the other cultures out there, you see the other cultures are still doing well. So when you look at the underneath, they are doing well. So if we had this set rule book that we were all following while being among other cultures, I feel like, you know, we would be better off because we would have that foundation to live from, you know. So we would be connected to something, as Kwame Brown would say, ain't connected to nothing. We have to be connected to something. If we were connected to something, you know, these types of stories wouldn't happen as much. We would definitely have diversity a lot faster, you know. That's just how I see it, just being in this space for almost 20 years, you know, because there's not a shortage of white, Indian, or Asian people. There's no shortage at all. It's growing and growing and growing. But in comparison to black, man, we're at the very bottom. And so we definitely have to just be cognizant of that. Anyone who's trying to get into the space, definitely, again, keep your foundation. Do not let this system and your surroundings determine who you are. You determining who you are. You get around people who look like you. You have a set base of people who look like you, who strive for excellence and can be your foundation to ensure that you stay true to who you are when you're among many different cultures. If you do that, you will be fine. You can't go into this thinking that, oh man, I'm so thankful I got a job and I'll just accept anything they throw at me. They know you're going to approach it that way. Especially, you know, because again, we come from, a lot of us, I have to say, you know, a lot of us come from nothing, right? You know, so when we get something, man, we are trying to keep it. We don't want to mess that up. And people know that. That's all I'm saying. People know that and they take advantage of that. They will. I am severely underpaid, just to be completely honest. The only reason why I haven't gone anywhere else, because I could definitely go somewhere else and get paid double than what I'm paying now, when I get paid now. So I could definitely do that. Maybe I'll do a video on that at a later time. But there are many different reasons why I haven't done that. It's not as black and white. I mean, I am willfully in this position where I could change it, but I'm trying to change it in a different way. I'm trying to change it where I'm happy in the end. I don't want to change it to where I'm not happy and I'm still in the same space. So I want to change it for the better. And money doesn't always make things better. It doesn't bring you complete happiness. It might make it better. What I'm saying, it might make it slightly better, but it doesn't bring the happiness that the happiness and balance that I strive for. Right now, there's a slight level of balance that I'm able to wiggle around here in the midst of chaos. A level of comfort that I've been able to kind of build for myself, even though I'm severely underpaid. Moving to a different space, I don't know if I'll be able to have that. So, but anyway, different conversation. If you have any questions, I would love to answer more questions, man. I would love to, anyone who's a person of color who wants to know what it's really like to be in this field, what you really need to know going into this field. I mean, I kind of spoke from the mental aspect more so than the technical aspect, because the mental aspect is important. It's I feel more important than the technical aspect, to be completely honest. So that's why I stayed on that part of the discussion. But if you want to know technical information, I think Dummy Codes has a really good video speaking from the technical and slightly mental as well. Dummy Codes, I'll put a link to it in the description to that video. But yeah, man, again, I hope this is well received. I do not want this to be received as, man, Kevin, I didn't think he hate white folk. I don't. I just I understand where we are. I understand the system. I understand the things around us, and that's where I leave it. That doesn't mean I hate anybody, but I'm a realist too. Like I know because I've been in it. I know how things go, and that's just what it is, you know. And if the cat is brown, I'm not gonna tell you that it's white. It's brown. It's a brown cat. That don't mean I hate the cat. It's just the cat. The cat is brown. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. So that's really the only thing. That doesn't mean there's no hate coming here. This is all in love. But hopefully this helps like prepare you from a younger age, especially parents who want their kids to be in tech. These are things that have to be considered. You know, you can't just throw them in that space and expect them to just be happy because they're making more money or they have this access, and they should just supposed to just deal with it because they're going to be quote unquote successful. We also need to determine what success is. But anyway, that's another conversation. But you can't do that. There has to be a level of preparation to ensure that your child or you or anyone in your family succeeds and continues to grow in this field if you really want to make it and if you really want to prosper. So I'll leave it at that. Hey, I appreciate you guys for even listening to this. If you were able to even get through it. I know this probably isn't a popular topic, but I appreciate you for listening. I was kind of pouring my heart out there and what it's like for me and how I've been able to get through it and stay in this game for so long, and still be myself. That's another key, you know, because a lot of people lose themselves and become what they want them to be instead of be yourself. So, but anyway, I appreciate you guys. Next up, well, just tune in for the next video. I'll see where we go the following week. I'm gonna continue going ahead and play Messenger, but I'll see you guys later. Peace out and stay brilliant. We hope you're learning what you can from these free tutorials. Again, if you feel you need more in-depth or extensive services or extra help with learning and getting the most out of this and don't want to wait on the videos, please feel free to join our DBH community for only $5. That doesn't mean you can't ask questions on here though. So if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to post those. Like and share this playlist for those who may need it. At the end of the day, we just want to help people build their engineering and coding skills to be efficient wherever they want to go. I'm Kevin. Appreciate you watching and be brilliant. Peace.